Hello and welcome. Today we have as a very special guest, Madam Who. Welcome, Madam Who.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you so much, Godless Granny, for having me. I'm so
You are,
excited.
thank you. I also asked Art Against Ignorance to come, and he had said he was coming, and he said he would be here about 10 minutes before we started the show. And I am wondering if he does not know that in the United States, we all changed our clocks by an hour.
Could be. He's
Yeah.
Australian. Yeah.
Or maybe he's running late, maybe he's, run into some kind of an issue, but either way,
Yeah.
we're hoping he gets here, and if he doesn't, I will have him on again another day.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
Madam Who, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Well, as far as like an atheist goes, or what?
Well, let's start with a little
Sort
bit about what do you do? What
Okay.
do you do for a living?
For a living, okay, I'm an upholsterer. But aside from that, I'm an humanist music artist. And in fact, in January 30th, uh, uh, Good Morning America, that's the name. Good Morning America did a segment on me and aired it January 31st.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah, that was really exciting. And it was exciting and flattering. Yeah. And they even said humanist music artist. I thought, wow, that's awesome. So anyway, I started, I tried to be a rock star, become a rock star when I was in my 20s. And I went to college in Nashville, and I got a music business degree from Belmont University, which is completely obsolete now because the music business has changed so much. And so I kind of took a 15-year hiatus, and then when I separated from my ex and almost drowned trying to save my daughter, I got back into music as a form of therapy, and that's what I'm doing now. And I decided to go to the humanist atheist route because when I was in Nashville, going to this Belmont, which was a conservative Baptist affiliated university, I had to go to chapel and everything, and I had required courses, the Old Testament and New Testament history. So freshman year, I had Old Testament history, and it blew my mind. I mean, I grew up a Baptist. I even played organ in my, fundamentalist Southern Baptist church. And so I went to this Southern Baptist affiliated college, even though I wanted to be a rock star. My parents were like, can't you be a Christian rock star? I'm like, no, they don't come out like that. And so anyway, I went there, and I was all in, I thought, right? But the first semester with this Old Testament history course, I had this professor who was, he was a religion professor. He didn't teach the class with any sort of dogma, right? So I felt free to be like, well, let me go to the bookstore, not the campus bookstore, but the Nashville bookstore in a mall somewhere, and find other references, I felt I needed to figure out why I believed what I believed. Right.
Very good. Very good.
So because he was bringing up things that were contradictive. And I was just like, wow, I didn't know that exactly, And so I started reading all these other texts. I think the history of Jesus was the first one that I read. I can't remember who it was by, but it was a really thin book, like this thin. It was like 1992. Right? And so, I read it, and it just kind of like, it was like, wow, Jesus. It made me think that Jesus wasn't this God that I always thought he was. He was just a man, right? And so I just I had that new perspective. And so I wanted to follow that more, learn more about that. Right. So so it was toward the end of the semester, and I went home and I said to my dad, who was really big in our little tiny Southern Baptist church. I mean, it was very tiny, but he was a big dog in it,
A big fish in a small pond.
Exactly. That's what he loved to do. And so I said to him, thinking that he was going to be like, oh, yes, I'll talk to the pastor about that immediately. I said, Dad, I think our church should have a library with all sorts of different books from different perspectives where people can check them out and decide what they believe for themselves. As I said, I thought he was going to be like, exactly, me too. I'll talk to the pastor. Instead, no, he was like, absolutely not. We are the sheep, and we are to do, and our pastor is the shepherd, and we are to do what the shepherd says. And I was shocked because I was like, I'm not a sheep. Right? No, I didn't. So that started me so on Christmas, I was home for college that Christmas period, and he had a best friend who was actually Baptist minister. Mm-hmm. We didn't go to his church because he didn't have a church at the moment, but so he had me go over to his house Christmas Day, and he gave me a private sermon that Christmas. Mm-hmm. And I remember he said, well, our country is founded on Christian principles. And I'm like, well,
no,
actually, it's not. It was actually, like Thomas Jefferson, and they were deists. Mm-hmm. And he was like, where did you hear this? The history books, as if all the history books are slanted away from Christianity. And I was like, actually, no, it was a pamphlet from the First Baptist Church of Nashville.
Ooh.
Yeah. He's like, oh, well, I'd like to see that. So anyway, I kept my mouth shut after that.
Yeah, I can see why. I can see why.
So I didn't mention it again, but I kept studying. And for a couple of years, I was like, do I believe in Jesus? Do I not believe in Jesus? Jesus was a hard thing to let go of. Mm-hmm. But once I did, I was like, I felt like I was free, I guess. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I, unlike other people that I've heard of, I never really had a fear of hell, even though hell's pretty scary, because I was saved at 7. And so I just think, and Southern Baptists believe that once saved, always saved. So I was, hell wasn't an option, and it's still not an option as if I still hang on to the Southern Baptist belief. So hell wasn't a scary thing, but to not believe in Jesus, that was, a kind of a hard thing to let go of. I thought if I do, like a lightning bolt was going to come down from heaven and, strike me dead, but nothing ever did. I'm still here. So fast forward like 20 years or so, after I almost drowned trying to save my daughter, I decided to get back into music, and I had a passion for learning about the history of Christianity. And I don't know, about 8, that was like all through my life. That was a passion. And then starting about, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago, I was really, really interested in deconversion stories even though I had my deconversion story a long, long, long time ago, but I was interested in other people's deconversion stories. And so I was just devouring them on YouTube, and I found Seth Andrews. And then I just became a fangirl of Seth Andrews and then other people later. And after that, I got back into music, and then I decided, you know what, I decided that I was a humanist, and that I needed to, instead of being a Christian artist, I could be a humanist artist. Like, there aren't any humanist artists, right?
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. So I should be a humanist artist. So I've gone that path, and it's been okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've, like I said, I didn't tell you this yet, but I have an EP that I released last year about this time. I think it was March 18th, in fact.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was exactly a year ago today. It's called Reclaim Your Power, and it's 7 songs. And a lot of them have humanist lyrics and values. But I do have specific songs that I have written that are more atheistic.
Okay.
Yeah, I know we met at the Better conference in Fort Wayne. Yeah, and I played there, and I had written a song that was called "The Magic of We," and I really love that song. I haven't completed the recording of it yet, but it's coming soon. And it's like, I don't believe in heaven. I don't believe in hell. I don't believe in Holy Ghost or magic spells. Right. So, I'm going that route, and it's there's a good future there, I think.
Okay. We have a couple questions for you from the chat.
Okay.
And the first one is that segment from Good Morning America available online?
Yeah, you can actually go to my website, and I have a link to it. So it's madamwho.com. There's no E on madam because that's madame. That's madamwho.com. And there's a link, and you can see it.
Okay.
Yep.
I put a link to your YouTube channel in the description. But after we are done, I'll go ahead and put a link to your webpage as well.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second question we have.
Yeah.
Are you any relation to Doctor Who?
Well, he's my ex. I don't like to talk about it very much. I got the theme song in the divorce. Thank you for bringing that up, questioner.
Okay. The Better conference was absolutely fantastic, and I got to hear Madam Who sing a number of times at the concert. At the conference.
At the conference, yeah.
I was really surprised that you remembered me, because it was easy to remember you. You were one of the people up on stage.
Yeah.
So I was surprised that you even remembered me.
Of course I remembered you. Come on. And you stood up and you said something about your bush as old as Moses, right?
Yes, I did. Yes, I said the burning bush was my bush.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That was hilarious.
I'm not afraid of sexual innuendo jokes.
So go ahead.
You said some things that brought up a number of questions. And the first question that I had was, you mentioned that when you were in college, that your Old Testament professor brought up a number of things that were contradictory. And I'm curious, do you remember what any of those were?
Well, I don't remember specifics, but they were just kind of like, it's things from the Old Testament, definitely. And that contradicted with other things in the Old Testament. And even though at that point I had read, on my own, I had read the whole Bible in the NIV, which was totally disrespectful, because it was, in my church, it was the only the King James.
Really?
Oh yeah, only the
You
King
you
James.
were one of those churches, huh?
Yeah, so I was being a rebel. Any
Mhm.
any Bible version reading that was not the KJV.
Mhm.
And I read it all the way through, and it took me a long time because, as a teenager I had other things to do, but and and then I remember while reading it I was like, "Oh, I don't know that thing came from the Bible." Like writing on the wall, the writing on the wall that
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, I was like, "Oh, that saying came from the Bible." Okay. And then other things I was just like that it just was revelatory, but I didn't, because it took so long to read, I think that I didn't really pick up on things that were contradictory.
Mhm. Mhm.
And also my indoctrination that had something to do with it.
Yes, very much so, very much so. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've heard my story, but one of the things that I related is that I, the flood story, I believed that it was literally true. And
Yeah.
when I heard Aaron Ross say, "We know it's not true," not
Mhm.
only could it not happen, but it did not happen. And we
Yeah.
know that from history, biology,
Huh?
geology. And as soon as he said history, I knew he was right because I
Yeah.
said, yeah, I've studied ancient history. There's no period of where we
Yeah.
go, okay, then the Chinese civilization ended, and
Yeah.
100 years later, a couple of stragglers, started
Mhm.
coming in to rebuild. No, we didn't hear
Yeah.
that, not a single, and it never dawned on me that I'd always known that.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember you telling me that, actually.
Mhm.
I remember asking you, like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? And you were like, the Noah's Ark story,
Right,
because you had believed that, just like I did, that the word of God is infallible, and
right.
and then if something is not true, then everything is not true. So yeah, I
Actually,
identified with that.
it's not that if one thing is not true, then everything is not true. It's that
Okay.
if one thing is not true, then it cannot be the word of God.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
why would
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
infallible God put errors into
Mhm.
his own work?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Okay, BS not accepted has a very important question.
Okay.
Where can we buy your music?
Oh, well, if you would like to buy my music, it is on my website. You can also buy it on iTunes or Apple Music, but you can buy it from my website too. And I'll get it directly. So it's madamwho.com. And there you go.
Okay. Purple, would you mind putting a link to Madam Who's website in the comments? So when you get that in there, I'll go ahead and pin it.
Now,
Um,
so I do have 3 songs that are very atheist centric. One
mm,
is called I'm Not Saying, which Seth Andrews played on his show. And then I have a couple more that I'm just finishing producing, and then I'm going to put it out on my website.
okay. Very good. Very good.
But right now, the 7 songs that are there, a couple of them have kind of, if you kind of squint, you can read between the lines and see that they're, um, well, what would you say, humanist, let's say.
Hmm. Hmm.
But they're all humanist values, right?
Hmm. Thank you, Mage. Okay. I've now got your website, the link to your website pinned in the comments. And
Okay.
after the show, I'll go ahead and add that to the description. Um, Yeah, this is really good timing for me because I'm finally ready to start listening to music.
Oh,
I don't
good.
know if you know my story, but I don't listen to music at
I
all.
don't either. No, I'm just kidding.
I will occasionally listen to classical music, but that's about
Mm,
it. And the reason I don't is
mhm,
because music affects me so profoundly
mhm.
that I can hear a
Was.
sad song and be depressed for days. And
Really?
there's 3 songs in particular that will make me suicidal. And
What?
so I just the 3
What?
songs are Starry Night,
Okay.
the theme from MASH,
Oh, really? The theme
uh-huh,
from MASH?
uh-huh, and Bohemian Rhapsody. Bohemian Rhapsody is the worst.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. Okay.
because
So,
if I get into the mindset of that song,
mhm.
it is really hard to get out. So I really avoid that song.
It's a good song though.
It
It
is. It is. I
is.
think it's one of the
Yeah,
most powerful pieces of music ever written.
it is a good
But
song.
one thing that I've been experiencing since I've left
Mhm.
religion
Mhm.
is I don't have anywhere near the level of depression that I did when
Oh,
I was in the faith.
yeah,
And
that's good.
that's why I'm finally ready to start listening to music again because I'm finally ready to allow
Mhm.
myself to feel it
Good, good.
because it's
How
not
long
going to kill me.
yeah, how long has it been for you?
Since I've listened to music,
No, 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 since you left the faith.
oh, it's been almost 4 years.
Oh, okay. So you're pretty new out of the
Mhm,
faith. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, it gets better. Things start to make sense again.
Oh, um, Mage says that that was is already in the description, which means that must be the link to your YouTube channel rather than to your web page. I need the link to the web page rather than the YouTube channel.
Okay.
And my daughter's trying to call me, so I need to ask her if I can call her later. Ring says Starry Night is actually called Vincent, and it always makes me tear up. So does Bones in the Ocean.
Oh.
Yeah, it was funny. Do you know Atheist Pastor?
I've seen him on Twitter.
Okay, he does a show occasionally called Hereticals,
Okay.
and he wanted to do an experiment of an American experiencing Australian music,
Okay.
and he saved his favorite song for last. And when he played it, I started crying, and he was like,
Aww.
and I said, "Now you understand why I don't listen to music." And he said,
Wow,
"Yeah, now I get it."
yeah. I get it too. Yeah, well, with me, music, when I listened, okay, so there's a period that I listened to music for influence, right? So when I was 12, which was a long time ago, I saw the Beatles documentary. You know, I'm
Mhm.
past the Beatles generation, but I saw this Beatles documentary on PBS. I think I was close to my 13th birthday, and my mom's like, "Come upstairs, watch the Beatles documentary with me." And I didn't know much about the Beatles. I knew a little bit because my mom had Rubber Soul, their album,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I liked it. It was, it was one of my top 5 favorite
Mhm.
albums of hers. So anyway, so I watched it from the Beatles. It's called The Complete Beatles from beginning to end. And by the end, not only was I in love with the Beatles, I wanted to be a Beatle. Yeah.
Mm.
I didn't
Mhm.
want to marry a Beatle.
Mhm.
I wanted to be a Beatle. Yeah. So I got a guitar the next day. Well, I ordered one the next day from Sears and Roebuck, from the catalog. That used to be a thing. Do you remember? You must remember that, right?
Mhm.
The Sears catalog, that was a thing. And yes, it was like $50 and came in a week. And I had a guitar and I learned lots of Beatles songs. I learned how to play guitar. And then later, the back of it fell off. I don't know why, but I was like, yeah, I don't need the back, right? Who needs a back to the guitar? And so I just kept playing anyway. And I noticed it would go out of tune quite often, but I was like, okay, cheap guitar, I guess. I don't know. So I just, tune it, tightening the strings when I needed to. And then later I was like, I looked at the guitar and it was like a bow like this. Like the strings here and then the rest of the guitar here. Yeah. So my grandfather then gave me another guitar.
Oh, well, I'm glad of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I still have my dad's old guitar.
Oh
The only thing I
yeah.
wasn't sure is if I gave it to my son because I never
Mm-hmm.
played guitar. I
Mm-hmm.
took We had something in junior high called Op Time where we could take a class that was just something fun to do. There was a juggling class, and there was a guitar class, and I took it. But this was only like 6 weeks, of junior high instruction, so you
Mm-hmm.
don't really learn much.
Yeah.
You learn how to do a G chord and a C chord, and that's
Right.
about it. Mm.
That's cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I
Mhm.
also play, do you play the piano at all?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took years of lessons, and
Mm.
if you give me a piece of music and give me enough time to learn it, I can play it,
Mhm.
but I'm not a musician.
Yeah.
I don't I don't know what it is, but, I'm reading the music and I'm
Uh-huh.
playing it, but I don't really play, if that makes sense.
Yeah, my son who's 18, he picked the piano up like instantly.
Mhm.
And he learned to read music and everything. And then my daughter, who's 14, she learned to read music and could play the songs according to what was written. But if she started on not where her hands were supposed to start, she didn't know the difference because she's tone deaf. Yeah,
Ah, okay.
but she could read the music, and she could play according to the music, but she doesn't have an ear, which it's probably good.
For me, I think it's more that I don't have a very good sense of rhythm, which is why I've always enjoyed singing in the choir, and the choir
Okay.
directors love
Okay.
me. They love me because I watch the choir director like a hawk to make sure that I am on the correct rhythm, and
Okay.
that's what the choir director wants.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
memorize the music and
Uh-huh.
watch the choir director.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if that's why a choir director was needed to begin with, because if everybody could read music, they would know when to stop, according to the instruments being played. But yeah, that's cool.
Mhm.
Like I said, I played the organ in church, but I also played the piano for my high school chorus.
Mhm, mhm.
And I can sight read really well. In fact, that was the thing that the high school band director liked the most, because he could just put a piece of music right in front of me and I could play it automatically without going home to
Mm,
practice. Yeah, or play
that's
it
quite a talent.
moderately well anyway,
Mhm.
without having to practice. But on the other hand, like a complicated piece of music, I would get to a point and I would just never be able to play it completely correctly, because
Mhm,
I was never memorizing it. I was always just relying on the music. So it was
mhm.
really hard for me to memorize something.
The way
Yeah.
I played complicated pieces was I would memorize the left hand, and
Mm-hmm.
my left hand would just play by itself, and I would read the right hand, and I would play the right hand, by reading the music, but the left hand, it just kinda worked all by itself.
Oh, okay. I, I've always marveled at drummers because they can do things with either hand that's completely in sync but separate. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, one thing I did, for contest my senior year of high school, there were these, runs in the music I was playing
Uh-huh.
that went the opposite direction that I was used to. You know how when you drum your fingers, you start with your 5th finger and work in? Well,
Mm-hmm.
these
Mm-hmm.
runs went the other direction. So I
Oh,
used
okay.
to sit there in class and practice drumming my fingers backwards, and
Ah,
eventually I got it. I got the rhythm of it.
nice. Okay.
Mm.
Cool. Cool. So, so yeah, with my music, I thought I was going to be able to play at the Atheist Conference that's at the end of this month, but that didn't work out. But I am starting something on Twitch. I'm just practicing right now, but I think next week is going to be the first week that I'm going to actually do something live on Twitch, which it's really just producing in Logic and just finishing up my LP which I will have available later. I'm working with there's Art, the humanist record label guy. What is his last name? Art.
I don't know. He goes by Art Against Ignorance.
Yes, Art Against Ignorance. That's right. And he is interested in having a couple songs with me and Blatant Atheist and others in this very, very small specific genre. And that's going to be fun. And then so aside from that, I am working on an LP, and I am also talking with an indie label in London, and we'll see where that goes. But I'm excited about that. And and I have this one of the 3 songs that it's going to be part of the atheist humanist thing. It's called Kool-Aid. Yeah. So
don't drink the Kool-Aid?
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
Did you get to hear Digital Hammurabi's, Josh Bowen's deconversion story?
No, I didn't. I love him though. I mean, like, you were there. He did the best impression of Kent Hovind I've ever seen. He's hilarious. And he's brilliant too. Yeah.
Oh, he is. He is.
No, I've never heard it.
Though. The reason I asked is because it's very similar to yours.
Oh, okay.
He was even further along though, because he had finished undergrad and he went to graduate school.
Oh, yes.
I think it was Princeton.
No, I did hear pieces of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was studying to be a pastor. And when he studied ancient Mesopotamia and Old Testament history, all of a sudden he couldn't believe this stuff anymore.
Yeah, like when he was about to go to Princeton, his previous professor said, "Oh, Princeton, they're pretty liberal there." And he's like, "Don't worry, I can hold my own." And he figured out the truth. Yeah.
So how long have you been an atheist?
Well, without telling my age, well, because I'm 27,
Okay.
Right. I'm 27. We're going to go with that. And so back in the 90s, 1992, that's when I lost my faith.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess it was before I was born.
Yeah. So you're a cradle atheist.
Yeah, I guess I am. Yeah.
So you figured this out long before I did.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a cradle atheist. Exactly. No, my kids are though. Yeah, I brought them. I didn't necessarily push atheism, but I did just not indoctrinate. And I took them to church if my grandmother especially wanted to go to church. When we visited her, I would take them to church, but I would prime them saying, "Listen, she believes this. I don't believe this. I grew up believing it, but I don't anymore. But you can listen to it, and whatever you think, we'll talk about." Like that. And so they're both pretty, at least my son, he's pretty staunch atheist. And my daughter, I don't think, she's not a very deep thinker. She doesn't think very much about that sort of thing. But so I don't know about her, but she's never been indoctrinated, so it's hard to think that she, without being indoctrinated, how could you really be a Christian? You're nothing.
What about your parents? Do they know about your? I'm sure they must know that you're not a believer anymore.
Well, my parents. Okay, so like I mentioned, my dad, and so He was okay. So it's my grandmother that was like the church lady. My grandmother's the church lady. If you ever seen Saturday Night Live,
I was going to say, you mean the Saturday Night Live church lady?
yes, they modeled it after my grandmother. I am certain. Yeah. So that's my dad's mother. Okay. So my dad was always like a mama's boy and just did whatever his mommy wanted. And my mother always just kind of played along. I always got the impression that she would say things like, well, I grew up a Presbyterian. We didn't have to go to church 2 times on a Sunday and then once on a Wednesday, stuff like that. So when I, after my saying that thing to my dad and then he had the preacher preach to me, I didn't say anything else for a long, long time. In fact, I didn't say anything else until probably about 5 years ago. So my dad, who was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer back in 2015, I wrote a whole book about him. And in doing so, I was curious about, where he stood with because he quit going to church. He quit going to church like maybe 5 years after he had the preacher preach to me. Okay. So that was shocking to me, and then he started drinking. So the whole time I'm growing up, it was like teetotal. They were teetotalers, right?
Yep.
So
the Baptists are.
Yeah. So all of a sudden my mom and my dad started drinking, not heavily, but they would, have a drink.
Every now and then.
Once in a while.
Yeah. With dinner. Yeah.
Right. So I was just like, okay, who are these people? Because, I didn't have a problem with that. And then I was like, Mom, Dad drinks now? She's like, don't say anything. It's the best thing that ever happened to your father. So he was like, he started to be like, I don't know, not as uptight, not as, and he also at the same time stopped going to church. And so he hadn't gone to church for like 20 years probably by this time. And so I was interviewing him because I was writing this book about him and his cancer and his journey through that. And so I was like, okay, Dad, I was kind of tiptoeing around it. Like, where are you as far as Jesus and this? Because 20 years prior, he had said, you know what? I think that, God is just whatever you call him, that's what he is. Like, like the Muslims call him Allah. He's Allah. And, the whatever call him. So he was that becoming, I would say, that open-minded about it,
kind of becoming a universalist.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, without knowing it, Of course, he's still Baptist, right? Because his mother is Baptist. But he was like, well, I still believe in Jesus and that he's the Son of God, but I don't like Christians. They're just, most of them are just bad, hypocritical people, especially the pastors. And I'm like, whoa, okay, yeah. So I didn't dig any further, but
sounds like somebody said something or did something, most likely the pastor or possibly a pastor from a different church.
Yeah, and there was one pastor in particular that he didn't like at all. In fact, he died. My father died on this past January, and there was this pastor who wanted to go see him, and I stayed there for the entire month of December to help out my mom. And there's this pastor he didn't like, tried to come see him. He's like, I don't want to see him. So I had to be the one to intercept him outside and say, oh no, he's not accepting any visitors. He's like, oh, I'll call next time. But he never did. And yeah. So, and I think, but then I did tell my mom about 5 years ago, and she's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, just don't tell Mamaw. My grandmother. Yeah. Don't tell Mamaw. And yeah, cause Mamaw is just all about it. And she will, I tell people I don't come out publicly really that I'm an atheist, because if Mama ever found out, she's 93, by the way. I think she will die. That will kill her.
I've heard other people say similar things, that they are out as an atheist to everyone except a grandparent it would just make them feel so bad, and you just don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
And it's better to let them live not knowing.
Yeah, like Oz. Have you ever talked to Oz about it? That's the same way he is with his grandmother. And he also calls his grandmother Mama. And yeah, we talked about it, and we're like, we could tell everybody but our grandmothers because they're fragile and they will die. Yeah. But my mom was like, just don't tell your grandmother. I was like, of course I'm not going to tell my grandmother. I've never really told my dad. He died, like I said, this past January, but I didn't feel like it was important. I also didn't feel like he was really all that invested anymore. So it really wouldn't matter if I said anything or not.
Yeah.
And the rest of my family, I did make after Fort Wayne, the Better Conference, I decided it was time. I just come out and publicly say on my Facebook feed that, I'm an atheist, but I'm still the same person. I've been an atheist for 30 years, but I'm still the same person. And I still believe in this and that and this and the other. And that's that, and I expected people just to be up in arms. Like, no, but they weren't. I guess I don't know if I've dropped clues or, because I was with a man. I was never married to him. I was like for 19 years. We had 2 kids. So I don't know if that's a clue. I wasn't religious. Yeah. That didn't work out, by the way.
Yeah. The only people that were upset when I left the faith were people that I knew from church. Oh, that's so sad. Why are you sad?
Yeah. For funsies, a few Easters ago, I went with my grandmother back to the church I went to when I was a kid with her and my parents. And it was the same preacher. He's like 80 now.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And
he's probably still preaching the same few sermons.
Same things. Like he says the same thing, like, welcome everybody to the house of the Lord. And he has this big, deep voice, and he was on the radio and everything. But anyway, I just thought that was just like so nostalgic, but the church, it was dying. Like there used to be, of course, because the preacher's older and, he had young kids when I was a young kid. And there was a big Sunday school, every class was filled, and now there's nothing. And the church is just really, really old. But then, so I was just walking around before the sermon downstairs, and this lady said hello to me, and I said, oh yeah, I used to go here when I was a kid, and I told her who I was, and she's like, oh, what church do you go to now? I'm like, I don't go to one. She's like, like, you have to, yeah. I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I'll do that, yeah.
I had a slightly similar experience just this past week. A church near us, Madison Baptist. If I was ever to go to church again, that is absolutely the last church in this city that I would ever go to. And the reason is because this church was very into supporting Roy Moore. Do you know who Roy Moore is?
No. Should
Okay.
I?
Only if you live in Alabama.
Okay.
He
congressman
was
or something?
He was a judge for many years, and he ran for Senate.
Okay.
And when he ran for Senate, it came out that he had had an inappropriate relationship with a teenage girl. Now, the teenage
Mhm.
girl was now in her 30s or possibly even 40.
Okay, I think I
And
heard something about this. Yeah.
he denied up and down that he ever even knew this woman. So she
Mhm.
produced her high school yearbook. He had signed it. That was the end of his Senate campaign. He still ran and he still got votes, but even after all of this came out and it was pretty
Yeah.
obvious that this guy was a pedophile, this church continued to support him.
Isn't that
And
crazy?
yeah, it is. It's absolutely crazy. And so, these kids, high school kids were at my door and one of them asked, "Do you have a church home?" And I said, "No." And so they started to hand me a brochure for we're from Madison Baptist Church. And I said, "There is
Mm.
no God." And thank you. They turned and walked away. What
Good for
was
you.
even what was even more interesting was the whole street was flooded with these people. I mean,
Oh.
there was a pair of them at every house on the street.
Um,
There was this huge crowd of them all
and they
walking together.
were they all teenagers?
I saw some adults with them, but for the most part, they were all
Mm.
teenagers. I almost expected some adult to come up to my door and say, "How dare you tell this child that there
Uh,
is no God?" And I would have responded, "If she's old enough to knock on my door and tell me
yeah.
she wants me to go to her church, then she's old enough to hear that there is no God."
Right, right. Mhm. Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Purple says, "I wish it were that easy to get rid of Republicans today, but lots of them still support DeSantis." Yep.
Yeah, it's just a team thing, I think
Mhm.
that's what it just boils down to, whether you're for that team or the other team.
Mhm.
And, whoever wins the Super Bowl, yeah, is gonna win. Really. I
Oh,
think people are that shallow. They just don't even know.
here's an interesting comment. "I have epilepsy, and the candles they burn in church give me seizures, so I can't go to church."
Oh,
Although that would be
that's a good
primarily the
excuse.
Catholic Church. Yeah, most of the Protestant churches I went to never had any candles, but not that you should go to
Um,
one of them because a lot of them are worse.
yeah. I've had seizures too. I had a cancerous brain tumor, and
Mm.
it was found out because I had a seizure,
Mhm.
and then like they said if you don't have another, it was removed, and
Mhm.
they said if nothing comes back in 10 years, you don't have another seizure or what else, then you're probably cancer free. And then like it was like 9.5 years, I started to have a seizure. I had a
Mm.
cluster of seizures,
Mm.
and very scary. But
Mhm.
they couldn't find anything. And then I think a year and a half later, I had some seizures, clusters of seizures, and they couldn't find anything again. And then my ex-husband and I broke up, and I never had any seizures since. So it could be because of
Interesting.
that. Yeah, I think it was a lot to do with stress, really. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So you had brain surgery due
Mm-hmm.
to cancer, but you're cancer free now.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Well, yeah, supposedly cancer free. Sure. Yeah, we'll say that. I like that. Yeah.
Art is here. Hello, Art.
Birds. Hi. Hi.
How are you this morning?
Good. How are you? This
I'm
is the
great.
afternoon for us.
What time is it for you guys at the moment?
What day is it over there?
Yeah, it is Sunday for
Sunday.
us.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Um, 8:30 in the morning, almost. I'm glad I didn't have a big night last night. So great right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So how's everyone going? What's the story? What's happening?
Oh, Madam Who has already introduced herself and told us about her deconversion story and some of the things that she's doing in the music world. We've
Mhm.
taken some questions and so forth from the chat.
All right. So you're live already because I'm
Yeah.
thinking I'm gonna turn up.
Mhm.
It's going to be backstage, and we have a little bit of a chat. And then all of a sudden, it's like
Sorry.
Yeah, we were speculating that possibly you didn't realize that we turned our clocks back an hour last
Yeah.
week.
Mm.
We went back onto
saving.
daylight time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't do daylight savings where I am, which is in New South Wales.
Hmm.
Sorry, we do daylight savings here. They
You
don't.
do?
And so different states are different.
Ah,
I
I
think
wish
we're
we
on
didn't
daylight.
do it.
I do too.
Mm.
Yeah,
I wish the whole country would just go on daylight time and just leave it there. You know,
I
this
thought we were
turning the
going to.
clocks
I thought
back
it
and
was
forth
something
is
last
ridiculous.
year that they voted on, and then
It was
then
a bill that was proposed, but it didn't get to
oh.
a full vote.
yeah. Look, I guess I get the practicality of it, but I
It's not
suppose
practical.
It's not practical.
I
Not.
suppose in the way, like if you're talking for businesses and things like that,
It's still not practical. Nope. Nope, not practical at all.
I mean, it's not real, is it? It's not
No.
real. I mean, the
No.
time is the time. So yeah, look, yeah, whatever. I'm hoping it comes.
You're just being a nice guy, Art, and you're just trying to, make
Hey,
it
I've
work.
got a nasty side as well, so that's coming soon.
I know one project that Art just finished was he made a new introduction for my channel.
I
And
saw that. It's so good. Yeah, love
I
it.
had fun with that. It was good fun. And
Mhm.
Godless Granny already had her piece of music, her theme. So really, I
Mhm.
didn't do that much, and it was just adding those dynamic stabs
Yeah.
in there that,
Mhm.
which hopefully that came out the way you wanted it. But I was pretty happy with
it
that.
did. It did. I'm very happy with it.
I just put out a video yesterday, I think, which is showing some of the different things that I've done for various YouTubers.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
there were things at the end, and there's a little bit of footage showing us putting that together. So you might be interested in having a look at that, because all the other videos I just kind of showed what I did with them and played the finished product basically.
Mm.
But with your one, because it was recent, I was able to do a little bit of filming just during the process.
Mhm.
You'll get to see that coming together in the studio that we did it in. My middle son, Darcy, is a music producer. Like, that's his full-time job, as well as doing
Cool.
gigs and things like that. So, yeah, we did it in the studio. I recorded. Behind me here, I've got my own humble little home studio.
Cool.
I'll start doing things there, and then I'll take it in, and he'll mix it and do all that, because he's all over it. So
Mhm.
I think you have a similar situation, Madam Who. Like, I don't know.
Oh, well, I'm just a one woman band. So I just do everything myself. I was a web designer, a graphic artist for a long time. And so I can do the graphics easily. Of course, I was been a musician my whole life and been in bands and in recording studios. So once I got back into it, then it was really easy for me to transfer into, first it was GarageBand, and then, that was the stepping stool to Logic, and I use Logic now.
Yeah.
And I'm doing everything now. Yeah. Mhm.
It's a great platform.
Yeah.
I guess perfect for writing on.
Mhm.
Music, yeah, it's so easy to use. I mean, you can take these things like to a distance and become a producer and really learn the ins and outs of it, which my son does. But for me, it's just a writing tool. So, I mean, I guess GarageBand would have been enough for what I do.
Mhm.
Ready to go, but it's mostly for the sake of writing and arranging and putting ideas together. So,
Yeah. I use that. Mhm.
a multi-instrumentalist, because
Well, I play everything. I play everything basically except for the drums, and I can program drums. So that's why I use Logic, because it has the really good drummer app, in it. And so I can, like I said, anything that and even guitar, if you need, if you can't bust out your guitar, you can just use the MIDI, right?
Yeah, right.
I do use MIDI for bass, at least at first, but I don't have a bass, but I do have really good bass player who I'm still in contact from my Nashville days. She was in my band, and so she does occasionally give me bass lines if I need it. But I'll play everything else.
That's great. Because I noticed that you can tell when musicians are playing slick, they're on the beat, and it's all smooth and consistent and has nice feel. And I get that from listening to your stuff. So around is, knows.
Yeah.
But listen, if you ever want any guitar, send me a track. I mean, I'm a guitar player before anything else. I don't play any other instrument. I can jump on bass, play bass.
Yeah, I mean, I play guitar, but I played rhythm guitars in my old band, so I'm not a lead guitar player.
That's kind of my instrument. So I do play lead guitar. So anytime you need anything like that, let me know, because I'm happy to do it. Take it in the studio. Good recording of it. He's got good mics in there, and some good gear. So
awesome, thanks.
Anyway, we've jumped in on Godless Granny's show here, and I'm just talking all over it now. So
you are most welcome. It's always interesting for me to listen to people to talk about something that I don't know much about, which I don't know a lot about the music industry. I know a little bit about playing music or singing music, but not what goes into recording it and things like that.
Yeah. So what, just through the church and that you had singing in the church? When you say you've had some experience with singing?
Actually, even before I was a believer, because I started piano lessons when I was 9, which I didn't become a believer until I was 16. And I sang in the choir in high school. In fact, that was one of the more profound experiences that I had as a believer, was that our choir director selected a number of songs that had religious themes to them, particularly classic music. A lot of classical music is religious based, and I became a believer at the end of my sophomore year of high school, and it was amazing to me how much more these songs meant to me as a believer than they did when I was singing them as an unbeliever.
I see.
Okay. Because there was a connection there because of your belief.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So. I at first I was just singing, these are the notes and the words on the page. And that's what I was kind of trying to convey with piano, is that I can play the notes on the page, but I can't make the music sing. I can't make it mean something. I just play the notes on the page.
You can read music.
Right.
Well, coming from the opposite side of it, and Madam who may agree with me here, I don't know exactly what your background is, but I never learned to read music. So everything I did was learning by ear. And also, as far as guitar playing goes, I've found that YouTube is just a wealth of there's so many talented guys out there, and just it's really that's lifted my guitar playing miles since I've been doing that.
BS Not Accepted asks, Madam Who, what's a fair price to download your music?
Oh, well, I just
$1,000.
Yeah, $1 million. Yeah. Just, I would. What is a CD? I mean, not a CD, but what does a album download go for? Just whatever. $10, $15.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's average. And per track, it's anywhere between $1 and $2.
Yeah. Yeah. But thank you. Thank you for asking.
What's your plans, Madam Who, with your music? Like, are you similar to want to get ideas? Because we're humanists, everyone here. I mean, I guess that's the unique thing with us. There's atheists, humanists. There's a whole bunch of labels you can use. Free thinker.
Yeah.
They're all kind of connected.
Mm-hmm.
For me, getting out topics that, align with that type of thing, like humanism and whatever it is my goal.
Mm-hmm.
Is it similar for you? I think it is, by listening to some of the stuff and some of the lyrics that you have trying to get across.
Well, as far as like, you mean coming up with ideas about what to write, or what are you talking about?
What you want to write about, what your goal is to write about.
Well, I don't limit myself in what I write about. If one day I'm singing about, how I have a crush on somebody, I'm just going to write about that. But yeah, a lot of times I will just direct it toward these more esoteric ideas, and or just put lines in songs. Like I have this old song I wrote, 25 years ago, and it's always been one of everybody's favorites. And I realize now that there is the perfect line in there that could say something about, make it into a humanist atheist song.
Right. Yeah.
And so I would have to re-record it, of course. And I've been thinking about it. It's called Something Good. But yeah, and I mean, like there was one that's on my EP called Strange and Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I did, that was an old song too. And I was never happy with the last line of it, because I just thought it was stupid. It was like kind of like a throwaway song for the last line. Geez, right? Yeah. But then now I came up with the perfect line, because the last line was, "And me, I don't believe in any gods." I know that might sound pretty odd, but everybody wears their own shade of strange. It's like, wow, that was the perfect one. So I had to re-record it. And then, so and put it on my EP, which was great. People really liked that one. Some people like that one the best. But then I have other songs like, I don't know if you've ever heard I'm Just Saying, which is about thoughts and prayers, how they go nowhere.
I have been listening to your album lately, actually. But yeah, title-wise, it's not ringing a bell. Is it? That's not on that album?
No. I actually, it's good. I'm going to put it out like a 3-song just thing for the atheist stuff. Yeah. I'm going to put, I'm Just Saying, I should say, Kool-Aid, and what's the other one I have?
I like that idea, Kool-Aid, yeah.
Yeah, and the Magic of We that I wrote for the Better Conference back in the summer, this past summer. I played there.
Yeah. You know what I would like to hear a song about?
Yeah, what?
I would love to hear a song that talks about, if your God is all about having us make a choice, why are you trying to force your religion into our laws?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll think about that one. It might come down the pipeline. Yeah.
Yeah, the hypocrisy and the contradictions in religion. There's so much about religion. Topics for religion come up with me all the time. Sometimes I try because I think I'm overdoing it. And I don't just want to, explore religious topics. I want to kind of get away from it.
Right.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Yeah, they contradict themselves so much. Yes, you have freedom, but no, we want to tell you what to do. Yeah, look, those kind of contradictions are worth writing about.
Yep, for sure.
Or that, we can maybe write that together.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Go on. Godless Granny. Say something.
Well, I was just going to say, we are out of time. Okay. And so it was great having you on, Madam Who. And Art, I will have you on again. Awesome. I've got Blatant Blatheist coming on in a couple of weeks.
That's great.
And I'll let you know when he's coming, and maybe you can come on with him as well. And I
would love to. Yeah, he's become a friend of mine. I've known Madam Who for maybe 6 months. I kind of been aware of you being around. Kind of watch who's out because you're interested in what other artists are doing, the kind of things I'm doing. So I've been aware of you for a while, but but I've known Jerome for probably about a year and a half now, and we've done a few bits and pieces together. And he's a cool guy. He's so talented in so many ways. He's a comedian. He's a rap artist. I don't know why he doesn't describe himself as that. He doesn't really call himself a rap artist when he's promoting himself in his bio or anything like that. Also, I got him to send me some tracks of him singing. Have you heard him sing?
No, I
have not.
A sweet voice, honestly.
Oh,
Something that I want to use more often. Employ into some of my tracks, even bits and pieces, because I know he's busy doing a different thing. But listen to Jerome's voice. He's got a sweet voice. Very good.
Cool. Well, he should incorporate that in his rap stuff, you know?
Well, I think so too. But he must have his own idea of what he is.
Well,
He wants to do the hardcore rap thing.
Okay.
Blatant bars and all that. I think that's what it's about, blatant bars. It's rap focused, and he doesn't really see in that. But that's another side of him that he's very, very, very great. I guess maybe he doesn't have any original songs that he writes in that way. But yeah, look, when would that be? Because I would actually love to pop on and.
Okay, I can let you know. Next week I have Ring coming, and the following week will be April 1st will be Viced Rhino, and Blatant Blathiest will be on April 8th.
Okay, and would it be a similar time than a weekend?
It would be the same time as this one, yeah. So just an hour earlier than when you came today.
Sure.
So is it 5 o'clock in the morning over there?
Sorry?
Is it like 5 o'clock in the morning over there?
Well, right now it's about just after 8:30. But to get
on
8:30.
Okay.
So when you guys started, I could have been on earlier. I was up at 6:30 this morning because my wife.
Okay. I was thinking 12 hours, not 14 hours. Okay.
I was too. I was thinking it was like 3:30 in the morning there.
Yeah.
No, it's not that early. This is a reasonable hour. Look, unless I was out having a big drink the night before and had a hangover, I'd be up about the time anyway. So,
okay.
Look, I can be a little bit earlier. I can join in. If you kicked off about an hour and a half ago or something, I could be on at that time.
We kicked off an hour ago. I only go for 1 hour.
You do a 1 hour thing. Well, I can be there for the start of that if you're happy to have me on there.
Oh, I'm happy to have you there. Yeah.
And chat a bit more and talk a bit more about my background and that, I guess, and what I've got planned. But look, I appreciate you having us on too. So, I mean, that's great. And it's helping us guys getting what we do, the music thing out there, because, you know, I think it's important. There are people like yourself, YouTubers, that are doing great stuff. I've got nothing but respect and admiration for what you do, because it's brave to get out there and to try and enlighten and inform people, you know, and I think it's great. But I also think for our side of the thing, music's got power, it's got potential.
It does.
It does. A way where you might not be able to by just talking to people, you know.
Yeah.
I think you can transcend barriers with music. So great, and the fact that you're giving us the time to talk about it is great. You know, I really like the idea of us trying to push what we do, because I've got a lot of things planned for this year, and I'd like to connect with everybody here quite regularly. If you're happy enough to do so, you know.
Okay, awesome. Great. So yes, the link to Madam Who's webpage is in the description, or is in the pin notes on the chat. I will add it to the description after the show, and next week Ring will be my guest, and on April 1st we will have Viced Rhino here.
Okay,
and then the following week,
excuse me, One Ring.
One Ring, yes, One Ring.
Okay, I did some things with him a while ago too. But anyway,
cool.
That's another story. I've done things with everybody, man.
Yeah.
On my shit, right?
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, and yeah, it's great to see you guys. I hope we can talk a lot more.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you for coming, everyone in the chat. There's something that's kind of going bonkers, you know, a little wonky with YouTube right now, because the whole time my show's been on, it's been showing that I have 0 viewers.
Oh
And
no.
I've got another tab open, and I can see that there are 8 people there, but that is not anywhere near as many as I normally have. I think
Yeah.
for some
Sorry.
reason the signal isn't going
It's my
quite right.
curse. It's my curse. Sorry.
I guess also the fact that you're doing something a bit different to what you usually do by interviewing a couple of artists, musicians, might not be what your audience would normally sort of jump on.
No, it's just my curse. That's all. Don't worry.
The curse of the madam. Okay,
Yep.
well, that's a bit of an issue. You have to do something about that. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Madam Who. It has been wonderful hearing your story. You have a very interesting story, and I love your music.
Franny. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
I'm going to have to come back and watch this after, so I can.
Well, she didn't play any, so it's fine.
But you sang for a bit. You did.
I
sing for a
did.
bit.
Yeah, I did just a cappella, so that really doesn't count.
You know what? It would be so good if I could pick up a guitar and jam and you could sing, but you can't. It's the time.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It wasn't going to work, but I tried it anyway.
Okay.
I gave it a go.
Okay.
Anyway, I'd love to do some stuff with you, so let's talk.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks, Godless Granny. That was awesome. Thank you. Even for a short time, I had fun. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
See you.